This is Show Up as a Leader, a show from People Forward Network, helping you maximize your positive impact on the world by becoming your best, fully authentic self.
Hey, everybody, it is Rosie. This is a conversation that is just jam-packed with very actionable, tactical, even simple things that you can do to level up your effectiveness from a leadership standpoint. And I am talking about the conversation that I got to have with the incredible Matt Bergmann. He is the CEO of Laketown Electric, and he is just phenomenal in how he's grown this business and everything they're doing to invest in culture, in their people, in leadership, to the point that you're going to hear him talk about they have 48 applicants for every opening from an apprentice standpoint. In an industry that is not typically warm and fuzzy, they are completely breaking the mold. He just recently was named by the Minneapolis-St. Paul Business Journal as one of the 5 most admired CEOs for 2026. And you're going to hear why. And so you're going to want to listen for just the simple things he does that helps people feel valued and loved. And yes, those are his words, valued and loved, and how critical it is from a leadership standpoint. We talk about how in this world of AI, how critical those human relational skills are. You're going to hear his philosophy of why he cares so much about being intentional about their values and just very practical things they do to be intentional about communication and transparency. And just the list goes on and on. There are so many rich nuggets. I can totally see why he won this award. I think regardless of your industry, there's a ton that you can learn from him. And if you want help with your organization to do some of the things that Matt's doing, we would love to talk. Message me and take a listen. Let me know what you think. Matt, I am really, really excited to have this conversation with you today. And congratulations on the Minneapolis-St. Paul Business Journal Award for being one of the 5 most admired CEOs of 2026. Yay!
Thank you.
Much, much deserved, and people are going to learn so much from this conversation. So, and I can tell why you won it, because from talking to you and in preparation for this conversation, I would say that in an industry that isn't typically warm and fuzzy, I mean, let's just be real. What strikes me is you're really breaking the mold by intentionally investing in your people and culture. And I think when all kinds of uncertainties going on from an economic standpoint and a global standpoint and political standpoint, it's so easy to let those things go by the wayside, but you're not. So we're going to dig all into that. But before we do, it's always good to kind of get some backstory and understand what got you to this point, because you didn't wake up and get this amazing award overnight. So can you share a little bit about your journey that brought you to where you are today?
I was very fortunate to have an excellent support system with parents, and I grew up in the business. My parents started this business in 1975. We'll be celebrating 51 years in April. And growing up in the business as the owner's son, you're allowed to get your hands dirty. So you can work in the field from 12 years old on. I did that from 12 to 18. I don't think I was going to win any awards for that work that I did back then. It probably wasn't my, sweet spot or forte, but I learned a lot, and I learned what it took and all the hard work it took for all the men and women in the field that we have. So I did the traditional 4-year path. I went to St. John's University, College of St. Benedict, and got a degree in business management and got a degree in communication. I had a traditional, I led sales teams and developed leaders through corporate organizations. And then the recession hit. My dad called me. His customers dried up overnight. And he said, I really need some help. And I came in and I did things kind of the old school way. I knocked on doors and started building up a customer base. At that point, we were only a 12-person organization when I came into it in 2011. I learned a lot from my dad in 2 years, and he passed away very suddenly at age 60. And that was very challenging because we were just starting to get momentum going and getting work back on the books, hiring some people. And, one day I had to give the eulogy for my dad's funeral, and the next day I had to convince the banker for us to continue and stay in business.
No stress or pressure there. None. God.
Yeah.
God.
Luckily, I convinced them to allow us to keep going, and we had a bit of a financial hole. We worked very hard for 2 years, paid off our debts. In 2016, I achieved ownership. We have an acquisition in 2018, and we've just really grown our business by hiring people much smarter than me in ways that I'm not, right? So on the technical side of things, that's not my best attribute, but just building culture and hiring right and developing people is where my strong suit is, as well as relationships with our customers. And now we've grown a $2 million 12-person business to a 140-person business that did about $60 million last year.
That's fantastic. Like, kudos to you. Kudos to you.
Thanks. Well, kudos to our team, right? That's really, I'm nothing without them. So
Yeah. Well, yes, 100%. And so, one, thank you for that background. And I think that, one of the things that we talk a lot about in our work is how it is a core human need for people to feel heard and seen and to feel like they matter. And we think it would be common sense, but it's not. And it goes out the window, and we rely on goodwill, and there's just such a gap that is growing. And you take a very intentional approach, even just like, hey, it's not me, it's my team. I mean, you take a very intentional approach to leadership to help people feel that they matter. And I think that's part of your growth. Can you talk a little bit about how you do that and why it's so important to you?
maybe I'm a softie, but my dad was a softie too. But I think it's important. You won't hear many construction business owners say that it's important that their people feel valued and loved, right? So how do we do that? Well, we make sure that everybody that comes into the trade is well trained. So we pay for 4 years of apprenticeship training. We also started a leadership development academy so that people can learn how to be better leaders, better people, mentor others. You know, it's one thing to know the technical aspects of the side of the business, but we're more interested in what kind of a person they are, right? Will they put their ego aside? Will they step in and do less desirable tasks? You know, are they willing to be a good team player? And really, we look for people that also want upward mobility. So we realize that not everybody wants to get there, but for those that do want to get there, we want to have a transparent path on how they can get there. And they should be rewarded for that too. So putting in tangible targets for them to achieve so they can get paid more, get more bonuses, better vacation days, higher tool allowances, pick their job and their team, and things like that, that quite honestly, a lot of other trades organizations don't really see. So I think that's been a differentiating factor for us, is that we actually have a crystal clear path and are transparent about how people can get there.
I love that. And I would say the vernacular needs to change, like being softy or that any of that stuff is soft, because the reality is those human centric relational skills that you're talking about are power skills or essential skills. You can have someone who's technically good at anything, and if they don't know how to interact with people, if they don't have emotional regulation, if they don't know how to get back up from setbacks, if they don't know how to give feedback and receive feedback, the list goes on, nothing about that is soft whatsoever, right? And so I love that. And I think you're right. There's so many industries where the focus is on the technical aspects of whatever it is, and I get it. But then why we have a job and why so many people that are like my firm have a job is because it is these people can't get along. We're dealing with change and we're having a bunch of drama that, we're not aligned on XYZ, that this person doesn't know how to give feedback, that this person's conflict avoidant. The stuff that makes things hard is because we're dealing with humans who are messy. And that is all those skills and investment that you're talking about. It's not the technical stuff that gets in people's ways usually.
Yeah, and I'm with you. We can teach the technical skills, and it's great when people come into the organization and they might know more than the average person next to them, but who they are as a person and as a human and as a teammate is so much more important, and all the others were willing to invest the time and dollars into teaching them the technical skills.
I love it. You're speaking my love language, and it's paying off for you, obviously. I mean, you're growing and you're winning awards, and love it, love it, love it, love it. So speaking of investing, so you're investing in your people, you have clear career paths, you're investing in their technical, you're investing in their leadership. You also take a very intentional approach about your culture, which I also really love and I think speaks to your success. And you've moved beyond what I would call having gauzy values that are these words that sit on a website or, sit on a wall somewhere, but they aren't actually a lived experience or aren't really tangible. And you have taken the step to really have very tangible behaviors that you expect and you also celebrate. And I think that's also part of your success. Can you share a bit about what those are, kind of how they came to be, and then how you're keeping those at the forefront of your leadership and your operations? Because I think this is a key differentiator for you that people can learn from.
Yeah. So one thing that I'm intentional about is being a lifelong learner. So I joined a peer group called Vistage about 7 years ago. I'd been in other peer groups before that, but that's been very beneficial to me. So I borrowed this idea. I don't want to say stole, but I borrowed because it's a best practice. But we have 20 fundamental behaviors and promises to our customers that we celebrate weekly. So I'll give you a couple examples of those. So one is enriching the communities that we live in. We'll give time, resources, and financial support to worthy causes and charitable organizations where our employees live. We'll be exceptional stewards of the electrical trade by going the extra mile to provide opportunities for others connected to our employees. Another one is honor commitments. We'll do what we say we're going to do, when we're going to do it, and always follow through. Be reliable, be on time. Never be silent or avoid conflicts if you're unable to honor commitments. Take ownership of your commitments and accept discipline if you do not achieve them. Reach for the help of the team to always follow through. So as we celebrate these every week, there's no better way to give a pat on the back to your coworker than to nominate them for representing what it means to be a champion of a fundamental behavior or promise to our customers. And weekly, we celebrate somebody. We get all sorts of nominations. We vote on them as a leadership team, and then we celebrate them in the weekly newsletter with a gift card. And it's just, next thing you know, if somebody did that for you on your job site and they get $100 in their pocket, you might work a little harder alongside them. Even though it's kind of a nominal deal, it means a lot. And we just want people to embody these behaviors and promises. It's going to make them better people, better teammates, and hopefully advance them as a person.
I love everything about that. And what I appreciate is you read a couple of them is they are crystal clear, first of all, and they are behaviorally focused. It's not, respect. Like people could have 10 different interpretations of what respect means, but you have broken it down. If it means this, 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 and this. So if I am an employee and I am wondering, how am I expected to behave? Here's your playbook. So one, I just want to say I think that's a piece that so many organizations miss. So I love that you just have it broken down to that actionable level. Two, I love the fact that you peer-based nominations, is we know from the data that's super powerful, but that you're recognizing people of how they're living those. Because I also think that from a cultural standpoint, where things go sideways is we don't have the systems or the practices in place to reinforce the behaviors and the mindsets that we want. And if we don't have those in place, people will default to the easy button because we're human beings, not because we're unmotivated or untrained or anything. It's just we default to what's easy. So if you are consistently reinforcing what you want, you're going to have a greater chance of having consistency in your culture, period. I mean, do you find that's a helpful, or how else are you finding that having these 20 behaviors helps you?
Well, having the 20 behaviors has helped me because I don't want it to always seem like top-down leadership. Leadership is much more powerful when it's from your peers, coworkers, teammates, even if you can get your customers to buy into it as well. And it's really changed my leadership style the last couple of years in that we started doing these tiger teams with our team as well. So we're working on unique ways that the field and office can come together to solve very big problems. So like one of them is we're trying to increase our recurring revenue. That's both the field and the office teams working together on it. They meet once a week and discuss it, and then they come together once a month and we come with, standard operating procedures on how to get it done, right? Same thing with the leadership development training, just trying to elevate our team so that everybody understands just because somebody is in the office does not mean that they're any higher level than somebody else in the field. We need to get rid of that stigma, right? We all put our boots on the same way. We all work hard together. And I don't want this ever to be the top-down leadership. I want everybody to feel like they can make an impact. And another way we've done that is through our pulse surveys. We do pulse surveys on our team every year. They tell us the gaps that we have and ways that we can be better. We missed a best place to work by 1%. Hopefully this year we get it. But we've made tangible changes. We added to our benefits. We pay 100% of our employees' healthcare. We added vision, dental, and basic life. That was a direct request from our employees. So we take all their feedback to heart, and then we prove to them that we will deliver upon what they're saying, so it doesn't fall on deaf ears.
So with that, I'm going to play the flip side of that we hear a lot from all kinds of industries. So you get feedback from surveys or focus groups or listening sessions or however you're getting feedback from employees, and there's some things that you just can't do or doesn't make sense. How do you circle back to employees so they know they're heard, but they also understand like you can't act on every single thing?
The pulse surveys are all anonymous feedback because I don't ever want somebody to feel like their voice cannot be heard for fear of repercussion, which we would never do. I mean, I'm an open book. If somebody wants to give me harsh feedback, I'm all ears. I'm not going to ever take it personally. I also do a quarterly state of the state meeting where I address some of the concerns that people might have head on and just speak to them realistically on what we can or can't do because, we're in a competitive environment. We can't always negotiate every project. And we also have to charge what the market will bear in order for us to continue growing and find the right clients. So you just have to hit them head on. And I'd rather give people an answer straightforward than that they might not want to hear versus no answer at all, where it seems like I'm unwilling or scared and want to walk away from conflict.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, the things that I'm hearing that I think are best practices, and again, kudos to you for living them, is, I love that, especially in your industry, you're bringing the field and the office together. And in so many places, there's a divide of customer facing versus behind the scenes or whatnot. And there can be stories that make up about importance level or how hard someone's working or whatever, versus it takes everybody, whatever your organization and industry is, to make this work. And it's not that one role is more important than the other. They're all a piece of the puzzle. And I think a lot of times without that being nurtured, without having a structure of no, hey, they meet weekly, we come in monthly, etc., things can fall apart. So it sounds like you really got some good systems in place to nurture the culture that you want to have, which is amazing. So I'm curious, I mean, you are so intentional about your culture. From your experience, what do you think leaders most often underestimate about building culture?
I think a lot of people hit the easy button where it's like, okay, well, let's all meet up at the brewery or let's go on a boat cruise. And while all those things are important, you have to realize that there's a lot of subset of your employee base that they couldn't really care less about those things, right? And you're going to have a certain subset that will definitely get behind the charitable giving that you do. So like we started a committee called LEC Gives where they decide what we're going to do with our giving, whether it be in person, donating our time towards a cause, or it could be supporting a family that's in need. Recently, we just had a couple of employees with health issues. So for our Movember, mustache growing contest, we anonymously gave to two families that we knew that were in need within our workforce. So some people gravitate towards that. Some people definitely want to go to the brewery or go on the boat cruise or go to a Saints game. And you can't just expect a culture to build by throwing events and doing things like that. I think it's in every interaction that you have with your customers, with the public, with your employees that really dictates and being intentional that you care, right? That's how we grow things. And we're very intentional about how we hire too. And while we might not always hire the most skilled person, we're hiring the best people. So like last year, we had 48 applicants for every apprentice. Apprentice is 0 levels of experience, maybe up to 5 for every hire that we had. And I think what we've been able to do by building this culture and building a well-known reputation that we take care of our people and have means for them to grow is that we're getting the very best people that represent our values, represent our behaviors so that we're all aligned as a team.
48 for every opening. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I always hear that there's a skilled trade shortage. I don't believe that there is. I think there's a shortage of companies that lead in the right way in the skilled trades to have transparency like we do and, have opportunities like we do and doesn't BS their way through what's ahead of people, false promises, any of that stuff. We're transparent about everything. So As a result, we haven't found it to be an issue.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it speaks to, is culture important or not? Yep, and to your point, it's not the perks. All of those things are aspects that reinforce. I use it in metaphor when it comes to culture of like a river, that everything you see on the surface is, oh, it's these perks you're going here or the benefits and all of those things. It's all the things you see, touch, and feel, but that's really more like your climate and your environment and the current that is in the river. Like when you step in, you feel it. And that's what ultimately shapes what you see. It's the unseen stuff that is the culture. And to your point, like people know they're valued because you have all of these deliberate practices in place that reinforce it, from being transparent with your communication to how you go about leadership meetings, to how you go about benefits, to how you go about development. Like those are the things that reinforce this underlying current or belief that people matter, that they have a room to grow, that you're a great place to work, and therefore you have 48 applicants for every opening in apprenticeship.
I would agree with you. And I mean, there's still plenty of improvement that we have to do here, right? We're just trying to get, maybe 1% better every day. If we can do that and compound it over a long period of time, I'm trying to make us from a great to a world-class organization, which that doesn't happen overnight, but I really think we're well on our way to getting there.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And no one's perfect, right? This is an ongoing journey. So there's something that you said that I want to circle back to that I'm just like, oh, yeah. So, one of our company core values is that we are stronger together. And how we operationalize that is that we say we need to operate from an abundance mindset, not scarcity, and recognize that, this isn't a solo journey and, build relationships, build referral partnerships, build community where you can. And, when you talk about investing in your community and other things, I know you also operate from that place of abundance and tangibly. Again, you've been showing and talking about how you invest in your people, invest in your community. Can you share a little bit? Again, in the trades, it's not that common. It's not that common in a lot of industries, let's just be frank. But why is this so important to you, and how you think it ultimately does help you as a business?
I'll go back to the leadership that was instilled to me by my parents. I mean, my dad taught confirmation for 20 years. He was in the Rotary. He was in the Lions Club. He was president of both of those, constantly giving back. He was the town Santa Claus. I mean,
I love
right?
it.
He drove the marching band trailer. I don't think he ever missed a parade that I was in. I don't think he ever missed a football game that I played in. And that just really instilled to me the importance of giving back, right? If you have the means to do so, you have to. You have to be a good steward of the community. You have to do things when nobody else is watching. You don't need to make a LinkedIn post every time you give a donation. I feel indebted to the community and to the upbringing that I had, that I hope that I can instill those values across our team, across our community. And that just also goes in the same vein of just really caring and being intentional about caring and, valuing our people as well.
I love it. You could have a good two truths and a lie. Like my dad was the town Santa.
All right.
That is so fantastic.
He was something.
I mean, one, I love that you had that relationship. I love that you had that modeling. And I think that so often, and let's just be honest, all the data we know from generations coming, millennials and Gen Z and beyond, like the whole social enterprise, like people want organizations that are there for more than just their profits, more than just their shareholders, that are part of the community. And I think, we want to do business with people who align with our values, with our purpose. And it is not just, smoke and mirrors or window dressing. And it's doing it authentically versus, to your point, every time we do it, ooh, we're going to post about it. Like, no, it's just kind of who you are. So I love that.
Thank you.
So one of our big focus, I should say, at Soleo Partners, as you might remember from when we met, is we are really focused on future-proofing workplaces. And really by doing two things, which we've been talking about, strengthening culture and leveling up leaders and teams so that they can show up more courageously and better handle change and disruption. So all of those essential and power skills, not soft skills, very, very critical. So I'm curious, from your perspective, when you think about the future of work and leadership, what kind of leadership do you believe that organizations will need more of moving forward?
I would kind of lean back into some of the leadership development training that we're doing. So it's a very me-centric world that we live in, unfortunately. But one of the concepts in our leadership development training is if you do not mentor two people to take your place, if you get promoted, what's the alternative? What could happen? And some people might take that concept and they might say, well, I don't want to teach this person what I know because maybe they'll take my position. That's the wrong mindset. You really need to bring people up the way that they brought you up in the trade. Imagine you're an electrician and you just came out of 2 years of trade school at Dunwoody or Dakota Tech or something like that, and you don't know anything. Well, the people that are leading our very biggest job sites, like we have a job site that has a $40 million base bid electrical contract. Somebody taught them along the way how to do things. They didn't just pick that up yesterday, right? So it's shifting people from the me first mindset and keeping all the secrets to themselves to understanding the importance of mentorship and bringing people up alongside them. And I think a lot of that is lost in the trades, but we're trying to be incredibly intentional to make sure that people are mentored so that they can take the next step, because we're going to need somebody to fill their shoes as well.
So say it again so that anyone who didn't hear it, because you talk about you have this kind of requirement or expectation in your training that they mentor two people that can take their jobs. Like how is that specifically structured in your expectations?
So in our 4-person development training, the 4 people are the people that are leading the $1 million+ electrical jobs. So they might be leading a team of 3 people to 30 people or more at a time. So it's the expectation. We have a different scale in our transparent career path that shows how you can get from apprentice electrician to a large project foreman. And there's 6 different levels of journey worker electrician. Each step along the way, that's where if they hit certain milestones and tangible goals, they can increase the level and get paid more. Well, in order for you to apply to be an estimator or a project manager within the company, you have to be a level 6 foreman. So as they go from level 2 to level 1, the hope is that they have 2 people that are level 3s below them that they can mentor so that they can hit the next step too. Right? So that we leave nobody behind. So there's no gaps in our workforce, with the intention that they're helping themselves as well in their review process, that look at the people that I brought along with me, look at how they progress so they can prove that they've done the leadership training and mentorship to them as well, so that their pedigree is going to be that much higher for that next promotion.
I love that you're perpetuating your leadership bench strength and your own succession planning by creating that structure. Because I think so often, I mean, we do a lot of succession planning with organizations and helping them be intentional about the process. And what comes up is, okay, they're thinking about leaders at a certain level, but then they're not thinking about, okay, but then if any of these people move to that role, what's the backfill and what's the ripple effect? And are we ready at these other levels? And a lot of times there's a huge gap.
There definitely is a huge gap. And we're just doing our very best to fill those gaps. I mean, some of these ideas are relatively new in the last couple of years, but it's really kind of propelled, and the proof is in the pudding in terms of how well we're completing jobs underneath our hours, better than our targets, and condensing our schedules. So it shows up financially, but it really shows up in terms of what our team and the challenges that we're able to take on that we quite honestly couldn't 5 years ago.
Well, and I think everybody wins when you collectively level up that, we call it leadership bench strength, but when you collectively elevate everybody, right, it's not just a few people. So I'm curious. So, when you took over the business, obviously, or, when you came back in, when your dad called you back in turmoil and change, recession, there's been tons of turmoil and change. It's nonstop. And as your team members are moving and growing, nonstop change. And one of the things that we know that change can be hard, because as human beings, we don't show up very well sometimes in the face of change. We're kind of messy. So I'm curious, from your experience, because you've been through a lot, what advice would you give leaders right now that are navigating constant change?
I guess it depends what kind of change it is. I mean, there's been a lot of challenges that we've had the last couple of years, between some of the turmoil with the George Floyd, with COVID, with, in my world now, it's tariffs and economic uncertainty. As a company, we're doing better than others considering how down construction is in Minnesota and how much our GDP is failing as a state compared to others. I think it's just listening to your team and being transparent and being upfront about the challenges and addressing them head on, not hiding behind it. I know when COVID happened, we were an essential business, so we had the right to be able to work. But if we were on a 100-person job site and one person got sick, everybody had to go home. It was just that craziness. So what I did is I made sure I called each and every employee just to tell them that I was here for them. I was wondering how their family is doing, and just they knew that my door was open, right? So another intentional thing I do is I write handwritten anniversary and birthday cards to every employee. On their anniversary, they get a gift card to Shields just with a personalized thanks. So it really depends upon what the change is. Those are a couple examples of how I kind of got through some of those items of change. And then on the tariff side, it's just being transparent with your customers and knowing that it's not an us versus you or you versus us, but everybody has to be collective and on the same front and willing to win together. And if we have to take some pain together, we have to do that too.
I love so many things about just the examples you gave of, so often people are like, well, we don't have a budget for fill in the blank. We don't have a budget for culture. And it's like, well, culture is free. It's how you treat people, right? And, where you invest your dollars. Like, again, you reinvest back in your people and your leadership and all of that stuff. But what I love, like, okay, hey, during COVID, I mean, this could be beyond it, but calling up and talking to them, depending on whoever's listening, how big your organization is, you can at least, to a certain rim, like touch base with people and go, wow, the CEO is actually talking to me, or this leader is actually talking to me. It's so funny. I always tell people, don't, in this day and age of everything being electronic and digital, don't underestimate the power of a handwritten note, a handwritten thank you card, a handwritten birthday card. It is huge because we know it takes time and it takes thought. I mean, I know I have a file drawer of like cards and thank you notes that I save them because I'm like, this is, when someone takes that time. So I just, these small but really powerful intentional acts that people think, oh, I don't have time. But when you do them, they really build up your relational bank account with people and even that trust bank account, so that when things are hard and you have difficult decisions to make or difficult situations you're trying to navigate, you've got that trust bank account pretty solid to be able to lean on.
Yeah, and you can always find time to do it. I brought half a dozen home last night while my kids were watching TV. We didn't have dance because they just had competitive dance last weekend. So we have 1 week off. So I just snuck a few in at the kitchen table while they were just kind of unwinding. So, but being intentional with that, I think, is really important. And the handwritten note means so much. I mean, how many spam emails do you get in a day where people are like, oh, did you see my email? Well, that's the worst follow-up ever, right? Of course I didn't see your email, right? So,
I put you right into spam and now I'm putting this one into spam.
yeah, but they will remember that handwritten note. And, even a thank you, if we're doing a very small job with a customer, like, we'll send them a Laketown Electric tumbler or a hat with a handwritten thank you card. That means a lot.
Yeah. I like those small touches, but human touches that, AI can't do that for you. Just telling you.
That's right. And they will figure out pretty quick if you're using agentic AI and bots are sending the thank yous for you, right? Take the time and make it meaningful.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So one of the things that I also, just as I'm listening to all of this, you're really investing in your people as a whole, and they don't have to have a title or a role. And obviously this podcast is called Show Up as a Leader because we firmly believe that leadership never has been about a title or a role, never will be about a title or a role. And obviously for people like yourself and the formal leaders within your organization who do have that role and responsibility, it is even more critical because of the influence that they have over culture and employee experience. But just because they have that doesn't mean that they're a leader. So I would love to hear from you, Matt, that when you hear the phrase show up as a leader, what does that mean to you personally?
I mean, me showing up, I think I'm kind of the person that sets up the deck of cards, right? And if I can rely on my people to drive the bus and try to be a visionary as best as I can and let people run with ideas versus solve them for them, I think that's what's important. Early on in my career as a leader, I tried to wear absolutely every hat, which is quite honestly silly. And before I had like Mike on my team that handles all of our recruiting, and he also helps manage our reviews with our director of people. Quite honestly, he's better at it than me. He's hiring better people. By the time I get to hiring people, I'm like, it's crisis mode. We have all this work ahead of us. Let's get them in and give them a try. Well, that's the absolute wrong answer, right? So I have put good systems in place and good people in place to do things that they are better at than me. And I'll be the first to admit that. Karen, my director of people, is way better at handling HR than I ever was. Mike, on the operational side, he's fantastic at understanding what makes and what does a person meet our vision, culture, values, those kinds of things. Andy, my right-hand man, who's been here almost 30 years, he's 100 times better at understanding how we're going to run projects, how to oversee it, how long is it going to take us, that kind of thing. I'm better as a hands-off leader to just basically guide the ship in the right direction and let people learn and make decisions on their own, and they can have full autonomy with that. And if they fail, that's going to happen. Lord knows I sure have failed a lot in my career, right? I've kind of learned the hard way, but I've gotten smarter in letting my people and getting the right people in the right seats to make it happen. And that's really what I'm all about now. And the most important thing to me is that our people are valued and loved. Our customers love us. We're delivering upon the promises that we did, and we're going the extra mile where it's, our trademark is remarkable efforts deliver extraordinary outcomes. And that's really what I try to instill in our people, is that we need to do one step more to make it remarkable and meaningful. And that's what I try to instill in my team, is take it one step above so that people won't forget us.
I love all that. And you know what it reminds me of is back in the day that Tony Hsieh from Zappos, it was deliver wow through service. Or I mean, it's like you've created such strong practices and reinforcers in your culture that when you say be remarkable, like they know what that is. It's like, okay, it's not just a buzzword. It's not just a tagline. It's really a way of being in your culture, which is amazing. I love that. So you talk about failures and growth and all that. I mean, we know that leadership is an ongoing journey, right? You don't like suddenly arrive and, oh, you're the CEO and check the box. I'm done. Oh, I won this award. Check. I'm done. So we're going to go a little bit more deeply here for just a moment. But what is something that you are currently wrestling with as a leader that you don't think gets talked about enough?
As a leader, one thing that I'm wrestling with, I think there's a lot of unknowns on AI, and while it makes our life easier, it makes things a lot less personal. And I think a lot of people are falling into the trap. You can tell people that are doing LinkedIn posts and ChatGPT wrote it for them, or I don't want anything to come out of the Laketown messaging to ever feel diluted or not feel personal. I refuse to share any message that's been checked by Copilot or ChatGPT. I want to be authentic with everything that we do. So I worry about the sterilization of messaging from people, and I worry about just the depersonalization of everything with AI. So I want people to feel like we're authentic and who we are as a company. And I think that's a struggle that a lot of leaders are going to have to deal with. And there are ways that it can make our life easier and do menial tasks. I get all that, but I also want to be careful with our messaging.
I appreciate that concern and intentionality. And you know what's really interesting is if you look at the data, I mean, there's so many, everyone's surveying this, but I think last year, like Workday did a survey and found that something like 81% of employees believe that AI is only going to elevate the need for human connection and human-centric skills. And you're starting to see all these other data points and surveys pointing to, like, DDI did a massive, like 10,000 person global survey last year and found that in this day and age of, digital transformation and AI, that the human-centric leadership skills and that leaders need to know how to make workplaces that feel more human. Like, so this is music to my ears because this is what we do, but it's really speaking to what you were saying, is that there's places to leverage it. And if we just start outsourcing the things that, like, you can tell when you get an email response that's from a bot and you're like, seriously, like, because business still is done through relationships.
It is.
It still is. And so if you don't build those relationships and you don't have that authenticity and you feel disconnected from who you are, that's going to show up in the businesses that I think that are going to be set apart are those that still are very relational, where they use the technology, like you said, where it makes sense from an efficiency standpoint, but they haven't lost their humanness. And so I think that you're right on where we see the data, but I also think all the practices you already have in place, you already have that in place. So it's not like you're going to hopefully lose that, where you have people that are in organizations that are more transactional, that aren't investing in their people, that don't take the time that you are taking to have people feel loved. I mean, I love that you talk about that as a business. It's going to be even harder, I think, for them in this world to how do you adapt to both technology and also bring that humanness in. I think that you're set up in a really good position for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, and I mean, the robot overlords are not going to take over the work of a electrician tomorrow. Not in my lifetime. It will make the trade easier where people their bodies won't wear out as easy, and there's going to be better intelligent layout tools that we already use in robotics. That's pretty neat. But for our office subset of employees, I also want them to know that their jobs are not going away. If anything, the busy work that they did before can go away. We can always do more with less. My business is all about more with less. How can we work less strenuously but get more productivity on the job site? How can we get rid of these? Everybody should write down, what are the 20% of your tasks that you hate the most, and can technology help you through that so that you can do more meaningful revenue producing activities? I think people should embrace it, but we're fortunate in our trade. You hear of all these tech layoffs and these companies that are just like, yeah, we can get rid of 10,000 people because AI can do their job. In our world, that's not going to happen to any degree. Hopefully people, their careers and their skill sets and everything that they bring to the table can be elevated.
Yeah. Well, and I will say, even you're starting to see now some oops, like some of these companies that did these layoffs thinking AI could do it. Like, oh, just kidding. Apparently we do need humans because it still needs human oversight. So there you go.
Yeah, can I have my job back?
Right.
Well, or will you come back? Yeah.
Yep. Yep. All right. Well, so speaking of being human, one of the things that really drives a lot of the work that we do is, I know from coaching leaders and working with teams, that part of our messy humanness that gets in our way of being future ready, that gets in our way of being courageous, that gets in our way of leading into change, and the list goes on, is that we are hardwired for safety, familiarity, and comfort. And so I know that no matter how long you've been on this earth, no matter how successful and how many awards you get, you're a human being first, Matt. And so I would love it if you'd be willing to share, what is a self-limiting story that you still tell yourself sometimes? And when it shows up, how do you move beyond it so that you can still show up as a leader in your life and have the impact you want to have?
I look back to early on in my career because I've learned a lot more about the technical aspects of my work, in this business. And I remember I used to have to put on a full, in my business, this is about as dressed up as I get, right? Before this, I had a vest on. I was out at a job site, but I remember I used to have to wear a suit and tie to get like a $150,000 job from one of the biggest general contractors in the state. And their contract was like this big. And I didn't put together the estimate, but I was the customer relations guy, and just kind of like fighting through and working so hard to get a project like that. And really, in hindsight, it was more trouble than what it was worth. But what I've learned is it's really how you show up as a person. And if you don't know all the technical answers, that's okay. And to admit if you have some deficiencies on the technical side, or you don't know the answers to every question, to come back and get them the right answers at a later date. I think maybe early on in my career, I tried to act like I knew all the technical answers. And that really was just foolish of me, because I didn't want to look weak, right? I didn't look like they should have any inhibitions about hiring our firm because I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, quite honestly, at the beginning, I didn't know everything that I'm talking about. I still don't. I mean, I'll retire from this business and someday, and I still won't then. And it's just important to let people know and not BS your way through it, that if you don't know, you don't know. But I guarantee there's somebody on my team that does. So I'm past all that. And now I feel like I could talk to just about anybody about anything in our trade. But I definitely still know, and I'm reminded of my deficiencies every day. I mean, technical questions, I go across the hall and talk to Andy. That's just what it is.
I love it. I have people on my team. I'm like, that's above my pay grade. Go ask them because I have no idea. Like, I'm not going to be helpful here.
Are we speaking the same language right now? I don't know, but I'll find out for you, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think that there are so many, I'm going to say formal leaders, but people in general as well, even informal leaders, that it's so easy to carry this narrative that I have to appear that I have it all together, or I have to appear I have the answers, because then somehow I'm less than, versus we're all works in progress, we're all learning, and kind of quieting that narrative so that we can actually either find the right person, find the right answer. And I go back to being relational. I mean, most people know when they're being BS'd. Like, I would much rather have somebody say, I have an idea, but I'm not sure. Let me go find out before I answer that, versus blow smoke up my butt and then give me guidance that isn't going to be helpful.
Another good example of that is we're often asked, and we'll do a couple a year, we're often asked to do some large apartment buildings. And I will do them if they absolutely insist with a very good customer that they only want to hire us and nobody else. Now, we're asked to do that type of work all the time. And people are like, hey, would you want to do this, 200 unit apartment building over here? It's our project. And I'll say no. And they're like, well, what do you mean no? I said, well, you don't want to hire us. And they're like, well, why? And I said, well, there's two different types of electricians. There's your heavy commercial guys that deal with steel studs and pipe and wire. And then there's your apartment building guys that deal with wood studs and Romex. It's two different types of electricians. So in the past, I'd say, yeah, absolutely, we'll do it. Now I will say, here's the three people you want to call. I'm happy to make an introduction. They will do so much better than us. Let them know that the work and the request is coming. And you know what? That goes both ways too. And it definitely has with us. And that it takes a special kind of leader or mindset for people to admit that they can't do everything and that there are better people at doing certain subsets of electrical than what they do. And that's really helped us.
I love that. Well, that goes back to that abundance mindset. Like for us, we'll get requests on things. I'm like, that is not in my wheelhouse, but I know some people that I can refer to you so that you're not going out to Yelp or Google or, Facebook or whatever it is. And then you have no idea what you're going to get. So I think that people appreciate that handoff for sure. For sure. All right. Are you ready for quick questions?
I think so.
Okay. Fill in the blank. Living authentically is...
always being your true self, never BSing your way through anything, never not being an open book, and speaking your mind, even when it's difficult to do so.
I love that. When the world is presenting an opening, but you don't feel like showing up as a leader, what do you do?
It depends. Sometimes you have to fight through it. You always got to put your best foot forward, I would say. And if you can't, just be honest about it.
Yeah, love it. What is something that people would be surprised to know about you?
My daughter plays percussion, and I played percussion all throughout college, and I had a music scholarship for percussion. That was just a hobby of mine.
You could rock out on the drums, baby. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. What is your favorite go-to movie?
I really like just to decompress with some real basic slapstick, meaningless, crude humor kind of stuff. So if you think about like the Chris Farley, Adam Sandler, Jim Carrey stuff, the old stuff that I probably grew up with in the 90s. That's the kind of stuff I like. And now I get to watch it with my kids too.
I love it. Well, kind of going along with the drummer thing, what is your go-to song?
Oh boy. So I grew up in the 90s, right? So believe it or not, I love hip hop music. So my walk-up song, and this isn't my favorite song, but it was meaningful to me, was DNA by Kendrick Lamar, because it just talks about, he's got loyalty and royalty inside his DNA. Also flow, ambition inside his DNA. And I related that back to my upbringing.
Nice. I love it. What is something you can't live without?
My family, for sure. Just spending time with my daughters who are 9/11, with my wife, Erica. We'll be celebrating 15 years this summer. If I was to look at selfish things for myself, I really love the water and I love fishing. So my walleye boat is one thing that's my kind of guilty pleasure.
I like that. Well, besides your walleye boat and your family, what is something in your ordinary daily life that makes your heart happy?
It might sound silly, but we're a dog-friendly office, and I bring my dog to work every day. So we have two dogs. We have a rescue German Shepherd, and then if you could see my couch right here, I have my Nova Scotia duck toller, Reba. She's named after Reba McEntire. She's got like red fur. So she brings a lot of joy to me.
I will tell you, we have 2 little dogs, and every time I go into the room, one of them gets the tornado tail, and I'm like, oh, who else in your life is that happy to see you that they get a tornado
Right.
tail?
No, I know it. It's something, isn't it? I'm such a sucker for dogs.
I love it. I love it. And what are you grateful for right now?
I'm grateful for a lot of things. I'm grateful for the direction that our business is going with all the wonderful people. I mean, it really doesn't feel like work when you get to show up with people that are genuinely your friends, when you have customers that you could consider friends too. And just my support system is really awesome. My daughters are at such a fun stage in life where right before the job site, I went to Buck Hill to watch my daughters ski for an hour. Even though it was almost an hour there and an hour back, that was important because she wanted me to show up for her, right? Getting involved with my kids' activities. We're doing a cruise with the family starting on Saturday, so I'm really excited for that. And just, family, friends, faith, all those things are super important to me.
I love that. All right, one closing question. Matt, if you could challenge leaders everywhere to practice this one behavior that would create more human workplaces and equip everyone to show up as a leader, what would that be?
It sounds way too simplistic, but I'm going to lean back into finding ways that your people feel valued and loved, right? So understanding them as individuals, getting to know what's motivating for each person is different for every person. But if you can lean into something that's important to them, that's really important. And your relationship is just going to grow from that, right? So you have to treat everybody individually. You have to get to know them personally, professionally, and really be mindful of those things, right? And it's just the little things like I talked about. Any of the little things that you can do to make people feel special, I think is important. And with intentionality, it's the thank you cards and the notes and giving accolades to people and deflecting things from yourself, because it's not about me, it's about my team and what we built. And really, I'm nothing without them.
Well, I will say that's not simple or small at all, because that is the future of leadership, is human, is relational, is showing people they matter. And I think that the more digital our world gets, the more that those skills are eroding. So I actually think it's a fantastic challenge, because I think that's where everything is headed. So thank you. And thank you for modeling it. Thank you for giving us insight into how you're breaking the mold and being successful. And hopefully more organizations, regardless of industry, can take some valuable learnings and lessons from you, because clearly you're doing something right. So much gratitude to you, and thank you.
And kudos to you and props to you. Thank you for what you're doing, because I just love hearing from all the different leadership perspectives and, being a lifelong learner, what else we can do to up our game and be better people and better leaders. So great job.
Oh, thank you. Mutual admiration. Yay.
I'm Rosie Ward, and this is Show Up as a Leader. To learn more, head over to peopleforwardnetwork.com and, of course, hit that follow button.